Coming up on today's show, we hear about the miraculous power of Jesus Christ. Joy in the City True Stories is a program that highlights people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and the dysfunction in our culture. But we're coming from a different approach as we take a look at the good things that are going on right here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. In the Bible, there are many healing scriptures we can often read, recite, and memorize. As we have seen for the past several weeks, we know God is still doing miracles in the lives today, and this story is no different. We want to continue to build our faith as we hear from Ashley White on how God did the miraculous in her baby, Ashtin. She takes us on the journey as she explains when they first knew something was wrong.
It was right at the beginning whenever I found out that he was a boy. They saw that he had a missing agenesis, corpus callosum. It's a box in the back of the brain that puts all the things in the brain together to make everything work. They were saying that he could have Down syndrome, he could have a hearing problem, he could have a bunch of different other problems too.
Agenesis of corpus callosum is a rare disorder that is present at birth. It is characterized by a partial or complete absence of an area of the brain that connects the two cerebral hemispheres.
I was very, very scared because I didn't know what to expect because I thought he was going to have all these problems. Whenever they were doing the ultrasound, they just saw that there was a missing part in his brain, so they kept doing more and more further testing to see what that was about, and they just didn't have any answers. Just getting us ready for whenever he is here so we knew how to take care of him with these problems. We prayed all the time, and when we went to church, we filled everybody in, and they would always pray for us. And after we kept praying, then I knew that he was going to be okay, and we kept moving forward.
Even with this prognosis, this didn't shake her faith. With the expectant challenges this would bring, her doctors discussed the option of abortion.
When we went to our visits, they would mention abortion, and even when I was far along, they said that they could take me to another state and abort him, but we were not for that. And every visit that we went to, they would always mention it, and we just weren't for that.
Moving forward, Ashley and her husband, Ashtin, were determined to bring this baby into the world in spite of medical advice.
Whenever he was born, we got to visit with him for a little bit, and then Pittsburgh came down and took him up to Pittsburgh to do all this testing and to see if he had anything wrong with him. And they did a bunch of MRI scans on his head and full body scans, and he had nothing wrong with him, but they kept trying to find something that was wrong with him.
So after several tests, the result the doctors finally come back with was unexplainable medically. In the end, there was only one thing they could say.
That they said that there was nothing wrong with him, and we got to go home, and everything was perfect. And God was on our side, and we always prayed for him every day, and everyone kept us in our prayers, and everything was just perfect.
Given this whole circumstance of not knowing what the outcome would be, she gives advice from the perspective of walking through this difficult journey.
I would never give up, and even if there was something wrong, I would still go on every day and give them the best you could give them, but I would never, ever give up.
We invited Ashley's mother-in-law, Diane, to join our story as she tells us about another miraculous event when Ashley and Ashtin went to church the following Sunday.
When Ashley and Ashtin came home that Saturday night, they felt the need to go to church that Sunday morning. She felt she needed to go up front and have the baby prayed for it and herself, and just thanking God that everything came out okay. Well, thank God we were there because it was God ordained. She had a seizure while she was at the altar, and the baby just went up in the air, and everybody was placed where they needed to be placed. Joe was there, he caught the baby. I caught her, Austin was next to her. Everybody just, and then Kira was there, who is a PA. So everybody just was there who needed to be there to help us with her, because if she would have been at home, I don't know what would have happened. So it was just, I felt God ordained that we were there that day.
As we wrap up, Diane talks about how God was in this through the whole experience.
Absolutely, God's been carrying her and him through this whole thing. I mean, just everything. That he's just a blessing. He's just a total blessing. Everything about him is perfect. They just kept trying to say there was something wrong with him, and we just kept saying, no, our God is bigger than these doctors saying that there's something wrong with him, and he actually has that little piece in there that I believe that God grew back.
So what they saw in ultrasounds being missing, you're saying is actually there?
A little
There's
bit.
a
of it.
tiny piece that they said is not there, but there is, they can see a sliver in his brain. Yeah, there was it's what separates the two sides of the brain. There's a bone that goes down the middle, and they said it was completely gone. But when they were doing all the testing up in Pittsburgh, they said there's a sliver there. And I think they messed up when they told us that, because they didn't want to admit that they were wrong. They kept trying to find something wrong with him. Trying. But our God's bigger.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Join the City True Stories. Join us next week as we highlight another person or organization having an impact in our community. Be encouraged, because God is moving in our city.
God is on the